Hello and welcome to the sixth lecture in our series on the introduction to the history of the Islamic religion. In our last lecture, I focused on the comparison between Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. And this comparison brought up some interesting observations with regards to the messianic concept, the resting day, and so on and so forth. I won't go back to that. Now I'd like to move on and explore a little the attitude of Islam to the non-monotheistic religions, to pagans, and also to the monotheistic believers who are not Muslims, i.e. Christians and Jews. Okay? What does the Islamic law require from a Muslim when he experiences the other religions, when he controls them, when he fights against them? So what should he do? Of course, everything begins with the Prophet, Muhammad, and we've discussed this already. We said that Muhammad, the Prophet of Islam, in the beginning was quite positive towards the Jews and the monotheistic believers. Actually, he addressed the Jews. They were the first to be addressed due to his hope that it will be easier to recruit them to believe in the one God, because they already believe in one God. But as we saw, that was wrong. He did not estimate the power of the rejection of the Jews. They refused to accept his prophecy, and as a result, he decided to move on and to address the pagans and try to convert them to Islam. Now, due to these events, the basic approval of the truth in Judaism and Christianity on the one hand, and the rejection of Christianity and Judaism, an attitude was formulated within Islam in the first centuries. An attitude which is quite complex in a sense, according to which there is a core of truth still in Christianity and Judaism. They are not false religions. However, that core was corrupted, according to the Muslims, by the Jews and the Christians. And there's one concept which exemplifies that. And this is the concept of and I'll say it in Arabic and then translate it, the Lawh al-Mahfuz. The Lawh al-Mahfuz, the hidden book. That's the concept. And what this concept says is that in the creation, in the beginning of the world, before there were men, God had next to him, in heaven, whatever you can imagine, he had the holy book. It's not any specific book, it's the holy book with the words of God. And it was hidden until God decided to reveal this book for the first time in history to the people of Israel on Mount Sinai. So the holy book, Lawh al-Mahfuz, came down to the hands of Moses, according to the Islamic tradition, based on the biblical stories, of course. So the first revelation of the holy book is actually the Jewish Bible, the 5 books of Moses. That's the holy book. Now, the Jews, being stubborn and unreliable, according to the Muslim approach, they corrupted the words of God. And therefore, God decided to try again. And he gave the holy book, this time, to the Christians. This is the New Testament. But the Christians, again, betrayed God, they were stubborn, and they corrupted the authentic words of God. How, for instance? Well, Christians claimed in the first centuries, in the Byzantine era, that God has a son. According to the Muslims, this is heretical. Okay, it's not in the Holy Book, and it was introduced into the Holy Book, into the New Testament. So this is a corruption of the Holy Book of God according to the Muslims. And therefore, Christians cannot be real followers of God. And therefore, God decided to give this book, to reveal it for the third time, this time to Muhammad. And this is the Quran. This is the revelations of the Quran. According to the Muslims, the Quran is actually the compilation of the true, pure words of God that were never corrupted, because the Muslims were faithful to the word of God and they kept it in its pure form. So what we learn from this story, which is just hinted in the Quran, but the full story is not in the Quran, it's in the later Muslim sources. What we learn from this is that Christianity, Judaism, and Islam both have the same true, authentic core. It's the word of God. Only the Jews and the Christians simply corrupted it a little, and the Muslims were the only ones to keep it the way it was given to them. As a result, one now understands the way Islam sees itself. Islam does not represent itself as being an innovative religion, inventing a new truth, rejecting everything else that was before it. No, it doesn't. Judaism presents itself this way, because Judaism says the pagans are wrong and the true word of God is something new, you have to follow this way, not the pagan way. Not Islam. Islam sees itself as a restorative religion. It restores the true word of God that was corrupted by the Jews and the Christians. So it's the same word, the core is the same, but it's also important to understand that there are some differences that determine that we cannot follow the Jewish Bible or the New Testament. We have to stick with the Quran. It is, according to Islam, the last revelation of God. As I urge you to recall from the earlier lectures, I said that in Islam, Muhammad is the last prophet. By definition, there will be no more prophets. So the Quran is the last revelation. There will never be another revelation to replace the Quran. This is how Islam secures the holy book held by the Muslims. It will never be replaced. Interestingly enough, if you recall, I said that several times. I said that there's no one Islam. There are basically two factions of Islam. The majority, the Sunnis, this is what they say. What does the minority, what do the Shiites say about the Quran, about the holy book? Do they also agree that this is the final word of God, it will never be corrupted? Well, the Shiites have an interesting idea. They claim that the Sunnis corrupted the Quran, and therefore it is no longer the pure book given by God. But as God will not reveal itself again until the end of days, in the end of days, the Quran will come down again from heaven in its pure formation. So what the Sunnis do to Christians and Muslims, the Shiites do to the Sunnis. They say that the Sunnis corrupted it. But again, this is the minority view. The majority's view, the Sunni view, is that the true, authentic book is still with us, and this is the basis for everything that a Muslim should believe in. What is the attitude towards the practical attitudes towards the Muslim, towards the Christians and the Jews? So what should we do with them? Because they're not Muslims, they should not receive the same rights as Muslims do. No equal rights for non-Muslims, even if they're Jewish and Christian. On the other hand, because they do have a core of true belief, and they believe in the right God, under another name perhaps, they should not be exterminated, and they should be protected on one condition, that they accept their lower status. So basically, Islam is willing to protect the monotheistic believers, the non-Muslim monotheistic believers, Jews and Christians, as long as they accept their inferior status in society. Obviously, if a Jew or a Christian decides to convert to Islam, he will have equal rights with every other Muslim, but not as a Christian or a Jew. Therefore, the monotheistic believers who are not Muslims are nicknamed Ahl al-Dhimma. Ahl al-Dhimma means in Arabic the protected people. The protected people. And they should be treated according to an interesting set of rules that I'm going to elaborate on in the next lecture. They all have the same book, remember? And therefore they're also named Ahl al-Kitab, the people of the book. That is the theological basis for the protection of the monotheistic believers, even if they're not Muslims. But what about pagans? Are they treated the same way by Islam? Well, I'm going to elaborate on that in our next lecture.